Hi, good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Bishop. I'm one of the public information officers here on the Eaton Fire. Our current acreage is 14,117. We're at 15% containment and we have over 2,800 personnel working this fire. We're going to do a brief update on the fire, such as operations, fire behavior, weather, and air resource. I'd like to bring out our operations section chief, Don Fergolia.
Very good. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Don Fraguli again here, Operations Section Chief for California Interagency Incident Management Team 5. I'm going to give you a quick operational update about where we're at currently on this fire. So we're going to start over here on the east end of the fire at Santa Anita Canyon. And as we come across the front country, call your attention to this black. The black line on the map here means that we have containment. Now, containment is not control. It doesn't mean that the fire's out. It just means that we have some shaky line out there, and firefighters are mopping up, and we're working to secure it, and we're working to make it good. So when you see red on the map, those are areas that we don't have containment yet of this fire, meaning that there's considerable amount of work still to be done in these areas along the front country. Also want to call your attention here to these sections. Each one of these sections is a 1 square mile area. And so down here, this map doesn't represent it as well, but this area here is a community, and it's square miles of the community that have been devastated by the fire. So not only are we working on the perimeter control in here, but the damage assessment and all the things that go along with this type of catastrophic fire are occurring down here on the bottom. They're occurring day and night. We're working on them continuously. And but many more days of work down here along the front country in these affected communities. As we come up around the west end of the fire, things are looking good over here. We have boots on the ground engaged all across this flank, and working daily to get that containment. And I think you'll see some black start to get on the map here in the forested areas. Very challenging terrain up here along the forest. It's the Angeles. It's steep. There's places where firefighters just can't go. So more to come on that in the coming days, but we're starting to make good progress along the flanks. So with that, I'll turn it over to fire behavior. Dennis Burns.
Good afternoon. I'm not going to reintroduce myself since Don did. Just a couple of points to bring up today is we got an infrared last night. The aircraft was up, so that's a good thing. What the infrared showed us overnight was we had some intense heat up in this area, some intense heat in this area, and then down along the front country all through here is what we call scattered heat. So that includes the area that involves all the structures and all that. So there's a lot of, we're not expecting it to move, but it is a heat source. And then there was a few pockets outside of our actual perimeter that shows isolated heats. Again, we're not expecting those to move. Overall today, conditions have been very favorable for us. The IMET will get into it a little bit more, but we've had basically a northeasterly flow over the top of the fire. The fire where it's sitting right now is pretty much on ridge tops, so it's gonna back, and typically fires burn upslope faster than they back down a slope. So the fire has to fight against backing down the slope, and it's also fighting against the wind. And that's all along this upper edge and even out on the west side a little bit. Down low, a little bit more shelter from the wind, not expecting any growth or movement on the fire in that area. All in all today, going through till tomorrow's shift, not expecting any significant movement on the fire.
Good afternoon, Incident Meteorologist James White. So I'm here to give you your weather update. The good news is we've experienced very favorable conditions on the fire over the past 24 hours or so. Last night had some of the best RH recoveries that we've seen of every night, and what that means is how high does the humidity get at night. We saw around 40%. That's still pretty dry, but it's a higher recovery than has been experienced at any point on this fire since it started. Now beyond that, what we've also been experiencing is very little wind. So over the past 24 hours, we've had very little wind on the fire for the most part, and that's also been very favorable. That doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet. We still have several days coming up, and there are some more concerning conditions as we have the next several days here. So today we've already seen some gustier northeast winds start to build in on those ridge tops. Some of those ridge tops up north, as well as in other parts of the basin, have seen gusts up to 45 miles an hour or so. Those will continue to increase through the night, with gusts maybe 50 to 60 miles an hour on some of those highest peaks. Now, the great news is that those will not mix down to the lower elevations, or are very unlikely to, and we haven't seen any of those strong gusts so far today, those lower elevations, and we don't expect to see them. There could be a very brief period tonight where you get just a few of those stronger gusts, but really anything above 20 miles an hour isn't expected. We will continue to have some of those gusty conditions at the higher elevations. We will continue to have those dry conditions at least for the next few days. Our biggest concern day, like I mentioned yesterday, is still Tuesday. That's the day we're really looking at where we'll get that combination of dry conditions and with those northeast winds continuing. On Tuesday, there's potential for those winds to be a little bit more out of the east, be a little bit better aligned, and that could allow some gusts to mix down to lower elevations. So we could see some maybe 20, 25 mile an hour gusts at the lower elevations that could test some areas of the fire. The good news is that those kind of wind speeds is nowhere near what we saw January 7th, January 8th. So although it's certainly something that we're watching closely, it's nowhere near the level of concern or critical fire weather as what we saw that started this event. Finally, like I mentioned yesterday, there's light at the end of the tunnel. There continues to be that light, and it only shows brighter as we get more weather information in. There's increasing confidence that we're going to have more moist conditions by the end of the week. There even is a very slight potential for rain. Don't get your hopes too high up on rain, but the potential's there, and either way, we are going to be much more moist. So that's the great news. Hang in there. Have a great day.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Air Resource Advisor Jen Croft.
Good afternoon. I'm with the Wildland Fire Air Response Program, and that's my job is to merge the fire behavior environment with the weather environment. When we do that, we have the capability then to tell where the pollutants that are produced from this fire are going to land and have the greatest impact. Currently, the greatest impact is along the Pasadena foothills from Altadena up at the Devil's Gate Reservoir and all the way over to Monrovia. Folks who have existing cardiac issues and or respiratory issues can expect to have significant impacts because the current air quality level from PM 2.5 coming out of this wildfire is going to be instigating their responses, their inflammatory response. For perfectly healthy folks, when the categories go into that red zone for unhealthy, purple for very unhealthy, and dark maroon for hazardous, even perfectly healthy people can have issues then. Right now, we're only expecting the conditions to range between the unhealthy for sensitive groups and the very unhealthy groups along the foothills. As you depart from the Pasadena area towards LA, you're going to continue to see moderate conditions. Doesn't mean that you're not going to feel that smoke. We're on day 4. Your eyes should be burning by now. Your lungs are probably a little coughing. All those toxins and plastics that are in some of these structures that have been burning are also in the air. Please remember, if you go to airnow.gov, you can get the latest conditions at your location and have a little bit more informed condition to see where you can go to get a little bit of relief. There's also lots of links on there, and tomorrow we'll be producing an outlook that gives you a forecast. In the short term, the 24 to 36 hours, we're going to continue to see this moderate to USG conditions. And then as we see this next passage of winds, that will bring that column right back down to the surface, unfortunately, for a few hours. And then we hope by Thursday, we're going to see a little bit more relief in the dispersion from these wildfires. Stay tuned, and thank you much.
Thank you, Jen, for that information. And the smoke outlet that she was talking about, we will be posting it as it's produced so that you guys can see it in the public. Next, we're to talk about evacuations and public safety with Los Angeles County Sheriff Captain Williams.
Hello, I'm Jabari Williams, captain of Altadena Sheriff Station. So I just want to give a few updates for the Altadena area. As of right now, as of today, still Altadena is considered a evacuation zone. The public is still not allowed in that evacuation area. We do have checkpoints, and people will be turned away if they try to enter the area. They are still worried about different things, potential fires flaring back up, debris in the road, and there's still wires down that can become energized at any time. We just want to keep the public safe, so that's why we're keeping everybody out. As of right now, we have over 550 deputies in the area for deployment. They do have active missions. Once they complete a mission, they're assigned another. So we are actively working in the area to keep the public and the property safe. There are 30 National Guards on hand that's assisting with checkpoints and protection of assets in the area. I wanted to talk about the shelters. There is a shelter. The closest one available is the Pasadena Civic Center. It is at 300 East Green Street. There is a family assistance center there. We do have deputies on hand. If you have family members you want to report missing, you can certainly do it in that area. There's also questions about whether or not people are able to retrieve medication. At this Civic Center at 300 East Green Street in Pasadena, there is a pharmacy on hand that can refill prescriptions. So if you need prescriptions refilled, please show up at the Civic Center and they can assist with that. I want to talk about the curfew. It's still in place as of 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and it's only for the evacuation area within Altadena. It's not within any other jurisdiction. So I just want to clarify that the curfew in place begins 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and it's for the evacuation area within Altadena. If you want to find out how to, you want to know how, learn if your residence is in that evacuation area, you can easily go to protect.genesis.com and they'll let you know if that area is in the evacuation zone. That's protect, PROTECT .genesis, GENASYS.com. The recovery efforts have begun. They started the grid searches this morning, and they will continue tomorrow. It will take some time, weeks. We have a lot of people, a lot of different agencies helping us, including the coroner's office, search and rescue for the sheriff's department, FEMA, OES, and a lot of different other agencies that are helping with the recovery and efforts in the area. So they are doing grid searches, going house to house to search for damages and potential remains. As of right now, we are up to 8 confirmed deaths for the Eaton fire. And those efforts for the searching will continue. We are at 19 arrests as of right now. Most of them are for people looting and committing burglaries. We made 4 arrests just for curfew alone. So please adhere to the curfew orders in place. We will begin the repopulation plan. It will take some time to get it started. We will say this, before we begin the repopulation plan, we will have guidelines in place for people to follow. They can easily go to any of our social media sites for LASD HQ, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Keep posted, and we will have the guidelines for the repopulation. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Captain Williams. Next, from the LA County Public Health is Chief Deputy Director, Dr. Anish Mahajan.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start by thanking our first responders for their heroic efforts and extending our thoughts and prayers to all those who've experienced profound losses from the fires. We in public health stand committed to supporting those in need in the months ahead. I would also like to thank our county supervisors, especially Chairwoman Supervisor Barger, for their extraordinary and thoughtful support of public health and all of our county and city partner departments. Without their leadership, we wouldn't be able to respond. A local health emergency for LA County was declared yesterday by Secretary Becerra at the federal level and by the county health officer, Dr. Muntu Davis, recognizing the substantial risks to public health due to the impacts of the critical fire events. There's a number of potential risks to health with the wildfire. I'm going to start with air quality. The South Coast Air Quality Management issued a smoke advisory through Saturday, January 11th at 5 p.m. There is no doubt that this advisory will be extended. Now, wildfire smoke is a mixture of small particles, gases, and water vapor. Those small particles cause the health problems. They cause that burning in your eyes, the runny nose, the scratchy throat, the headaches, and sometimes cough. But people who are at higher risk of bad health effects, we really need to take care of and make sure that they're okay from the wildfire smoke. And they include children, the elderly, those with respiratory and heart conditions, and people with compromised immune systems. They may have worse symptoms, so we have to look out for them. They may have problems with breathing, wheezing, cough, and even chest pain. Now, everyone in areas where there's visible smoke or where you can smell the smoke, and in other areas where you may not even have that, but you check the air quality index, we have to heed these exposures and try to stay indoors as much as possible, and not do outdoor vigorous physical exercise or activity. If you have to be outside for a prolonged period of time, you must try and wear an N95 or a P100 mask. These are high filtration masks that can remove those small particles in the smoke that can cause irritation and health problems. You want to keep the indoor as clean as possible as well by closing windows and doors. You can run air conditioning if the air conditioning has a setting that allows for recirculating air and not bringing air from the outside. If you have a HEPA air purifier, that also will help the indoor air quality. You want to avoid using your fireplace, candles, or vacuums at this time. And of course, if you're a smoker, we don't want you to smoke, but especially right now, try not to smoke as much. If you're driving, you can reduce smoke in your car by closing the windows and vents. Turn on the air conditioning and set it to recirculate to keep the outdoor smoke out of your car. Now, all of us are at risk for the poor air quality right now, but some of us in LA County need additional help and support. For example, if your job is to work outside, it's important that you wear an N95 or P100 mask. In these situations, you may ask your employer for the N95 mask, and they're required to provide it to you free of charge. The LA County Department of Public Health is also offering N95 masks through the interim housing sites, shelters, and street teams to LA residents who are experiencing homelessness and live outdoors, and to those persons who are evacuated from where they usually live and staying in temporary shelters. Family assistance centers will also offer the respiratory masks to residents who are returning to fire zones as the cleanup of the fire damage begins. The County of Los Angeles is also working to distribute over 5,000 HEPA air purifiers to institutions that take care of seniors, nursing homes, and other individuals who are at the highest risk of poor health outcomes. If you're experiencing symptoms that are severe, like coughing, shortness of breath, wheezing, nausea, chest pain, palpitations, or really fatigued, contact your doctor or seek a healthcare provider at an urgent care center. For life-threatening symptoms, make sure to call 911. I want to shift now to talk about water safety. As a result of the fire, there are numerous drinking water advisories that have been issued by local water districts. It's important to follow the guidance in these advisories to avoid potential exposure to the contaminants in the water that could result in illness. The kinds of guidances are boil notices, as well as do not use and do not drink orders. In wildfires, water systems can become depressurized when there's a lot of water being used to put out the fire, and there's a increasing risk of contamination of the water by sewage and bacteria, which results in bacteria levels that are really unhealthy. In these situations, the water district will issue a boil notice. For boil notices, residents in the affected area are advised to use bottled water or boil their tap water for at least 1 minute prior to using it for drinking, brushing your teeth, cooking, and cleaning indoor surfaces like your countertops, your stovetops, tables, and sinks. The boiling kills the bacteria and other organisms so that they don't get into your system. But there's another kind of problem with water, and that is sometimes in wildfires, there are toxic contaminants that result from the burning of all these structures and other materials that we've seen that get into the water supply. These contaminants can come from the structure and materials that were burned in the fire, and in this situation, the water district will issue a do not use, do not drink order. For do not use, do not drink orders, residents should not use the tap water for drinking, cooking, hand washing, and even not for bathing until they've gotten a release from the water district. Continue to follow the emergency guidance provided in the drinking water notices until your water supplier has notified you that it's safe to reuse the water. If you're experiencing concerning symptoms related to drinking contaminated water, of course, go seek medical care from your doctor or an urgent care. The water is also impacting our ocean waters. We at the LA County Public Health have issued a specific ocean water advisory yesterday. Please avoid all water contact at our beaches from Surfrider Beach to Dockweiler State Beach at World Way because the water runoff from the areas impacted by the fire may contain dangerous bacteria, dangerous toxic contamination, and debris that may harm your health and make you sick. We also continue to issue ocean water advisories for other beaches where the bacterial counts are high. We will provide updates on our website at publichealth.lacounty.gov/beach and post notices on the beaches about the evacuation zones. I'm going to now shift to cleaning up after the wildfire. Now, we completely understand, and this is a very difficult time for those who were evacuated from their homes and their neighborhoods. Of course, folks need to get back home, and they want to get back home very badly. But I would like to ask that you do not return home until you're told it's safe to do so. There are a number of potential hazards depending on the level of burn where you live. These hazards include things that relate to power lines and ongoing other kinds of risks, hazards of those nature. There are hazards related to toxic substances, lithium batteries that are not entirely de-energized, other kinds of chemicals that might have resulted from the burning of all the materials that in these structures. And so please heed those warnings and be careful about that. Now, our children are also worried and traumatized. Children may want to join you as you do go back into your neighborhood once you're allowed to do so to assist with the cleanup. But we have to do our best to keep children away from the ash. Try and make sure the ash and debris have been removed before you bring your child back to your home. So once you do get back there, there'll be places where you see a lot of ash and soot. The key is you want to cover up. You want to make sure you avoid skin contact with ash. You could wear household dishwashing gloves. Make sure you're wearing long sleeve shirts and long pants during the cleanup. You should be wearing goggles as well. If the ash does get on your skin, wash it off with some warm water and soap as soon as possible. You should also be wearing a disposable N95 or better type of mask during the cleanup to avoid breathing in the ash and the other airborne particles. N95 masks should fit reasonably well to your face without a lot of gaps around the edges to make sure that it'll work well. The LA County Department of Public Health is also offering N95 masks to LA residents who are returning to fire zone areas as the cleanup of the fire damage begins. Those masks will be made available at multiple sites, including the county evacuation centers and the family relief centers. Finally, the health officer issued an order yesterday prohibiting the use of blowers, things like leaf blowers. We don't want to aerosolize further the ash that exists after the fire. We have a lot more information for you. Happy to answer questions, but you can find more information at our website at ph.lacounty.gov. You'll find a lot more detail about the things I spoke about. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahajan, for that information. Our next speaker is going to be Assistant Chief Springler with the LA County Fire.
Hey, good afternoon. Pat Springle, Los Angeles County Fire Department, a local fire chief for the community of Altadena, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and La Crescenta. Being part of this community, I'm heartbroken over the tragedies that have affected us these last few days. I was on the initial response of the Eaton incident, and what my brothers and sisters from police, law enforcement, and fire experienced was absolutely mind-boggling. Be assured that we, law enforcement, fire department, and all the assisted agencies will be with you every step of the way through the search, recovery, and rebuild of your community. I also will be available for questions and answers through this program.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Springler, for that information. Our next is going to be Incident Commander Kevin Boha and Alex McBath.
Good afternoon. You've heard from our operations section chief when it comes to the overall status of the fire, and you've heard from our IMET when it comes to the weather that we currently are experiencing. So one of the different things that we're doing currently, in addition to the firefight, include preparing for the next weather incoming weather event that we have coming. It's obviously another wind event, but it's not as strong as the one we experienced recently. Also, with the current weather, we've been able to fly rotary and fixed-wing aircraft on the fire, which has been a huge success. You heard a little bit from law enforcement on evacuation and repopulation. One thing that we've been doing is we validate daily when it comes to life hazards or safety issues when it comes to that, so that we can make places safe, so that we can do timely and accurate evacuation and repopulation. Something else we're doing is we're working in conjunction with local, state, and federal resources regarding recovery. So that's something that's going to continue to improve and be a bigger deal in the next few days. Something else we talked about going through and doing search and rescue. We have USAR teams working as stated through the impacted areas of the fire. So specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about damage inspection. So we do have some questions that have been posed on that, when we're going to release damage inspection numbers and how we go through that process. So we go through, and there actually is a validation process with damage inspection teams where they go through and actually validate how many homes or structures have been impacted, damaged, or destroyed. So there's numbers out there that are estimates, and then we have those hard numbers, and then we release those to the public through a common website that's available to everybody. So I can give the confirmed numbers from yesterday's inspection. Currently, the fire is 10% complete, and 1,702 structures have been inspected, and unfortunately, 886 have been confirmed damaged or destroyed, 132 damaged, and 754 destroyed. This information, when it's validated, we'll still make sure that we get out to the public as timely and accurate as we can, obviously as a good public service. Thank you.
Thank you both for the information. So that's going to conclude our speakers, but we're going to go into our question and answer, and we're going to start with Chief Augustine from the Pasadena Fire Department.
Good afternoon, Chad Augustine with Pasadena Fire. For my Pasadena residents, it's important to remember that many cities in LA County are impacted by the Eaton fire, as it knows no jurisdictional boundaries. Thankfully, Pasadena is a full-service city with its own police, fire, water and power, and public health. This allows us to make decisions based on what is directly best for our residents as we look to repopulate and restore our community. I've received numerous questions and would like to provide some clarifications. Number one, is Pasadena currently under a curfew? No, Pasadena is not under a curfew. Thankfully, almost all of Pasadena was allowed to repopulate yesterday. There are a few small neighborhoods within the city that are still under evacuation orders. This is because it is currently not safe to enter the area. You have my commitment that as soon as it is safe to do so, evacuation orders will be lifted. Please visit the City of Pasadena website to view the map of impacted neighborhoods. Question number two, was the chlorine gas at Pasadena Water and Power saved? Is there still a threat to our community? The City of Pasadena receives about 2/3 of the city water from Met. It comes in untreated. We treat it with chlorine gas. The Don Benito Reservoir was in danger from the fire. This is where chlorine tanks are stored. Huge thanks to our partners from LA County Fire for saving the reservoir and protecting the tanks. There is currently no threat to our community. Is Pasadena still without water, gas, and electricity? Your Pasadena city leadership worked hard to ensure as many residents as possible could repopulate their neighborhoods yesterday. We understand that many homes are still without gas or electricity, as well as a recommendation to not drink the tap water. For more information and safety tips for how to safely return home, please visit our website at cityofpasadena.net. Finally, this fire is personal to us. We have firefighters and Pasadena city employees who lost their homes. These employees are still working around the clock to protect our community. We are committed to be with you as we return our community to the beautiful city that we know and love. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to bring Operations Section Chief Don Ferrugula back with some questions.
Okay, so a couple questions we've got so far. Three of them are going to talk about aircraft, and so I'm going to tackle the aircraft questions first. Was there a reason why VLATs weren't employed from the beginning? So VLAT is very large air tanker, right? So it's our Type 1s. It's our biggest aircraft that we fly out there, and they are the most powerful, and they do pack the most punch. However, sometimes even their abilities are curtailed by the weather. And so when you have 100-mile-an-hour winds and smoke laying over targets, it's really hard to implement that aircraft use. So they were flown today. I saw the DC-10 flying on this fire today, on the Eaton fire, and I think if you all looked out your windows right now, you would see that there's considerably less smoke on that hillside, and that's probably from that retardant use today. Okay. Next question, why has the ready-to-fly C-130 aircraft at the Air Force Base not been used for the last 4 days? And so I got this question 5 minutes ago. I had a chance to text out to the National Guard folks out there. Those C-130s are stood up. They have been flying and will continue to use every tool in the toolbox out there, including those C-130s at the Air Force Base. Last one here on the aircraft. Can you explain when VLATs are used and why they aren't flying, dropping on the fire all the time? So that's a fairly complicated question, unfortunately, but there's a couple things going on there. They're dropping on the fire certainly when the conditions are right. They're also dropping on the fire. Pilots have limitations, right? They're limited duty day. They're allowed to only fly a certain amount of hours. We can't see very well at night with the fixed-wing aircraft, and so that's why we're using the rotor wing, those helicopters. It's what we're using at night, and those are flying. And so we're a flying aircraft on this fire 24 hours a day when it's safe to do so and when it's appropriate. Okay, last one. This one's easy. What are the brackets on the map for? So I'm going to talk to the ops map here just real quick. These brackets, this, represent a branch break. And so a branch break and a division break, those are geographic areas along the perimeter of the fire where resources get assigned. And it's kind of it's a convenience thing for us because I can say to an engine that checks in, I need you to go to Division Charlie. And so if you go to Division C, you know that you're going somewhere in between these two brackets. So that's what the brackets are on the map for. They break the map up into concise geographic areas that allow us to implement suppression effectively. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next to answer some questions again for the LA County Sheriffs is Captain Williams.
So a question came up about whether or not are we allowing people into the area if they have proper ID to show that they're residents of Altadena. And I just have to say for the Altadena area, we're not allowing anyone in, even if you do have proper ID. It's a number of reasons. It's just been determined not to be a safe area at this time. We want to make sure the public is kept safe. I understand that different jurisdictions may be allowing that, but for Altadena specific, we are not. It's just been deemed an unsafe area. We would hate for someone to be let in and to accidentally go into a dangerous area and be hurt. There's some questions about whether or not we're giving temporary passes to people, and that's just a no. We're not. At this point, it could change later, but at this point, we are not allowing people in, even if they do have proper identification. If that does change, we will let the public know. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to bring out our fire behavior analyst, Dennis Burns, to respond to some questions.
Good afternoon. The question I have is, will rain create a risk for mudslides in the fire zone? And the answer to that is pretty simple, yes. Part of it is the fire burned extremely hot. What it does is it basically turns that top layer of soil into glass so that the water runs off. Not all the vegetation has been completely burned off, and so the water is going to carry that down into the drainages. It's going to clog some of those up, and then that is what creates the potential for the mudslides. Having said all of that, with wildfires, we have teams that are called teams, burned area rehab, and as we are ramping down, they are ramping up. They have hydrologists, soil experts, all that. They come in, assess the area, develop a plan, just like we develop a plan to put the fire out, and then they implement those mitigations. There's a lot of partners involved, but there's pretty much a standard template that all the agencies will use and kind of agree to. And so, they'll do and try as hard as they can to mitigate as much of that threat as possible.
Thank you, Dennis, for that information. Next up, we'll bring back out Air Resource Advisor Jen Croft.
Alrighty. First question was, how long can we expect the air to be toxic here in LA due to these wildfires? We look at smoke from a wildfire event as an exceptional one, especially when it's burning houses and other materials that are not simply organic in that regard. The pollutant that we're most concerned with is that PM 2.5, particulate matter 2.5, which is 70 times smaller than the diameter of your hair. So that's a really fine particle. It goes way down into your lungs, scratches things up, and makes things uncomfortable for you. The toxins have a tendency to attach themselves to both the gases, the liquids, and then those particles that are in wildfire smoke. When that happens, we see that last for up to weeks and sometimes months. It also travels hundreds of miles away. Our folks on the East Coast can appreciate a few events that we have sent their way as well. So that's a great opportunity for you to tie in, smoke ready your house and prepare for, because this is not the only fire that will impact this area. And that leads into the extra question here, which is there a website we can visit for information on air quality? There are 3 main sites you're going to want to visit for air quality. The first one is the Smoke Ready Toolbox. If you Google that, it should bring you to an EPA.gov website and slow your navigation down. The other site you'd want to go to is the airnow.gov site. And if you Google fire smoke map, that one will pop up for you. And that gives you the fire perimeters that are in the area, and then all of the different various monitors we have. We have low-cost sensors called Purple Air and Clarity. And then we also have some high technical resources that our air quality control boards use and the South Coast Air Quality Management uses to regulate the air quality and issue your advisories. So those are the top 2 I would go to. And then tomorrow, when the smoke outlook comes out on the NC website, I will include those links in my forecast and outlook, so you'll be able to navigate to them much easier. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. My email will be on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Next, I'd like to bring out with Pasadena Water and Power, David Reyes.
Thank you, Stephanie. David Reyes, Assistant City Manager, Interim General Manager for the Water and Power Department. Just to expand on what Chief Augustine stated earlier, we are a full-service city, smaller service area, obviously, than Edison. As of 4 p.m., we had 169 outages out of 65,000 accounts, and we're working hard to restore all of those. With respect to water, there is a no-drink tap water in effect for certain portions of the city, and those are located on the City of Pasadena's website as well as PWP website. We continued to distribute water to our community in partnership with LA County today at 470 North Lake. We will do that again tomorrow from 10 to 3 p.m. We have served over 3,000 cars that have come through in the last 2 days. We are very happy about that. But we recognize that without water that you're able to drink, it presents many challenges. We will be testing all of the city's water, especially in those areas that are affected, beginning next week, and we will share the results with the public. The chief stated that we are a full-service city. We also have our own lab on site, so we do not need to send off our samples to another lab to be confirmed. And we look forward to sharing our results with the community and look forward to having all of the city's water up and running and potable as soon as we possibly can. Further updates will be provided early next week, and we hope that the community is doing the best that it can. PWP and the rest of the city staff are working very hard to ensure that that you are all in the best shape possible. And thank you very much.
Thank you for that, David. So I'm going to address a few other questions that have come in. We do have a list that we are compiling when you email in. Some of the questions that came in is, why are out-of-state crews being turned away? I'm going to say that they are not being turned away. We have crews here from Montana, Arizona, Nevada that are helping, and we're getting more crews in daily as it comes in. So we're not turning any assistance away at all. One of the other, I know we keep getting a lot of questions in regards to FEMA, and I want you to know we are working on trying to get some answers to those. So we are not ignoring them. We're getting the answers as soon as we can, and we will advise as soon as we can. And then another great question that came up is the best platforms to use to get accurate information. For official fire information, I would like to address you to the Angeles National Forest social media pages, as well as Los Angeles County Fire social media pages. That is where we are producing all of the official fire information. I'm sorry. Watch Duty and stuff will pull the information we put out, and that is how they're supplied the information and utilizing that. So please do go to the Angeles National Forest and Los Angeles County Fire social media for that. That's going to complete our evening meeting, and I thank you for joining us.